and welcome to this week's show. I'm Gayla Scrivener, and I'm delighted that you're here today. I'm super excited because today I'm going to introduce you to Joanne Weiland. Now, in 2007, Joanne invented a platform to place experts in the limelight. LinktoEXPERT makes it easy to be seen consistently online, on stage, on social media, and be heard frequently on radio and podcast interviews, which results in being known as the expert worldwide. Imagine the empowerment you feel when you focus on what you do best and let the LinktoEXPERT community do the rest. Elevate your status by allowing decision makers to assess your talents, review your education, experience, and achievements, making it easy to hire you in minutes. You're going to love Joanne and my conversation, especially if you're running yourself ragged on going from one networking event to another, from one meeting right after another. It's important to get out there and shake some hands and make connections. You'll learn a lot about others, their businesses, and even yourself. But there comes a time when you need to break through and do more than just pass out business cards, never to see the person again. There comes a time when you need to connect on a larger scale. Now, without further ado, let's get right to the interview. I am speaking with Joanne Weiland. We have just met fairly recently. I guess the first time that Joanne had reached out to me was last fall. And in thinking about how Joanne and I have connected, it just seems like the world gets smaller and smaller. You see, I can trace back, probably 8 years ago of how Joanne and I had the pleasure of meeting. I used to live in Florida working for an organization, a medical management company, and my husband played music. Robert would play music at a venue, and he played there 4 to 5 times a week. And there was a couple named Jen and Richard. Well, I met Jen and Richard through Robert. And over time, Jen and I became friends. Well, actually, she hired me to become her virtual assistant. And over time, we have become friends. And Jen has referred me to some individuals in Florida because we've since moved from Florida many years ago. Then Jen referred me to a lady by the name of Liz. And Liz had mentioned my name to Joanne. And then Joanne and I have connected, and I think we've become fast friends, Joanne, because we have a lot of things kind of in common. And we even have our husbands' names are the same. It's kind of fun. And I think it's interesting how sometimes building these relationships and working together, it takes a while, and then we find these wonderful connections. And I wanted to bring you on the show today, Joanne, so that my followers can meet you, and because I find that you're just such an inspiration on how you can build a business, build a platform, and you have the freedom that you can build and work your business from anywhere. I'd love for you to tell my audience a little bit about you.
Well, thank you, Gayla. And I agree. I feel like I've known you all my life. I love when you get those kind of connections, relationships that you just feel comfortable that we can just, figure out how we can collaborate and work together, because I really do feel like that's the new way of doing business. Is collaboration makes your life so much easier. So thank you for inviting me today.
Well, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Well, I've been blessed in many ways. One of the things that I started with when I moved to Florida, like you were just talking about, we lived in Florida, I sold helicopters all over the world. And I was only 19, Gayla. So when I
Oh my gosh.
But it was such a great experience because you don't realize how big the world is and how small it is, like you said earlier too, when you really get to know these people and, sell them helicopters. Many of them had yachts, and they would want the helicopters so that they could fly, different places while their yacht was parked, or whatever you call that, docked somewhere.
Wow.
I got to meet like the Prince of Saudi Arabia, Prince Faisal's. I would work with his, pilot, different things. But the point is, that here I am in Florida, and I was, working with people in Canada, Venezuela, all over, and New Zealand, and then they gave me a single sideband radio to talk to all these people all over the world, as well as what, back then we had telex machines and all kinds of crazy things. So in other words, technology was big even back in 1979. And so I took that into my next phase of life, which was to sell computer products in what they called the two-tier distribution. Meaning I would call on people that would buy the product, but I still was responsible, being the manufacturer, for working the channel, we called it, because what happens is they sell to a wholesale distributor and, the actual manufacturer. Then the wholesale sells to the retailer, and the retailer sells to the person that actually buys it. We call the end user. But people don't realize you have to do push and pull marketing to get to the end user, because I could have been, just calling on the distributor, but they wouldn't stock it if the reseller wouldn't buy it, and the reseller wouldn't buy it if the end user didn't buy it. So you really had to learn to really go to the end user to get all that to work. And what happened was, when I was doing that, I was calling on all these people. I traveled over 1 million miles, actual miles, because of the fact back then too, you did everything eyeball to eyeball, not like how we're, talking from different states using Zoom, but you really physically went to visit people. You took them for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You trained their staff. You worked with their marketing department. But the reason I'm saying all this is I worked with so many business owners for 20 years, and only 5% of them actually implemented their ideas, because almost every one of them had fabulous ideas. And I wondered, why do these 5% implement their ideas and the other 95% don't? What I found was the 5% that did hired somebody like you were saying, we were talking about earlier, somebody that's behind the scenes that actually helped them implement their idea, to bring it to market, to bring it to fruition. And I thought, well, why don't more people hire somebody like Gayla to help them? And what I found was the average business owner worked in their business, not on their business. They might have went to one networking meeting a month, say a Chamber of Commerce meeting. But what I found was they sat with the same 5 people every month. So they really only knew 5 people. And because I was doing global alliances and all these different affiliations and different joint ventures all my life, I forgot that people didn't know people all over the world. People didn't know what other people did or could do for them and how they could help them, because the 5 people they knew from their networking really wasn't working, because of the fact that usually they were also there just to find business for themselves. So it was just interesting to take in all these dynamics of what was going on, in the business world, and it just made me sad that more people didn't implement their ideas. Does that make sense?
It sure does. It sure does. What you just said is giving me so much more perspective. Starting at 19, selling helicopters, for crying out loud. That's crazy to me. Small town girl thinking, I didn't know there was a job in that. But somebody has to do it, and that's fantastic that you, at a young age, learned that connections and collaboration is so important, and that over time, over your experience in your work, you had built these relationships and you traveled tons. But as technology grew, and we have a boom of small businesses, or even solopreneurs and experts in the field that you recognized that the technology could scale our connections. Instead of sitting with the same 5 people all the time, then we could scale our connections, our collaborations. And what I have been, well, what I help our clients do is build their platform. And what I am launching in a few months is a community to teach people how to start with their platform. And because we can scale our communication and build these relationships, eyeball to eyeball is fantastic, and we really need that. But when businesses, like you said, see only 5 people, are around the same people each and every month, and you're doing it face to face, how do you scale and make more of an impact? And how do you get out there through digital means? And building your platform is fantastic. And I think it's fantastic that you are passionate in helping small businesses make connections. And you built a whole community, and it's called LinktoEXPERT. Tell us about LinktoEXPERT.
Well, I think one other part, though, that I failed to bring up was even though the people worked in their business, not on their business, and only went to those one meetings, there was others, though, too, Gayla, and myself included. I actually had 12 volunteer positions at one time, because when I was doing all this networking, of course, you go to these meetings and they'll say, wow, if you really want to get to know people, Gayla, you really need to be on our committee, or you really need to be on our board of directors. So before I knew it, I had 12 volunteer positions, because this was after I got out of that, travel mode and started my own business. So there's also the people that what I would call the networkers. Some people used to call me the networking queen, because I was always, there was days that I really was at 4 or 5 networking meetings a day, because I was determined to get to know who was who in my backyard. Because of all those 20 years I lived on the road, I only slept here like twice a week. And then I was just, paying my bills, kissing my husband, and going back.
Yeah.
So it was I really was determined to get to know people. But I can also tell you, from when I did that, I didn't really get to know them, because of course I was just fluttering around trying to get to know people. My virtual assistant would say to me, all I do is get you ready for your next volunteer position. And I'm not complaining, because really we need volunteers. And I also know that I would have never met as many people in my town than if I wouldn't have did that. So everything's a learning experience. So I don't want you to think anything is good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. But what I learned from that too is, from doing all that networking, the one thing, because I even used to go to networking workshops to teach me how to be a better networker.
Oh my gosh, Joanne, we have parallel lives on that. Because when I left corporate life and started Scrivener Solutions, I knew the first thing that I needed to do was to meet people. All I knew were people in the medical field, and I didn't want to work in the medical field anymore. So you have to meet people and get your, stick your neck out a little bit and start shaking hands. That's when I joined a local networking group and became very committed to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's as a perfect first step, because you have to get out there and meet people, and that helps form you not only meet people, you also listen. You listen to what their needs are, and you get a pulse on your community a lot better. But it also, when you're working so much, that wears you down. And when do you find the time to do revenue generating activities? So I just wanted to kind of interject there, is like, I'm with you. I was right there, but I had to have a change to scale. But I think it is important. Face-to-face is important, and there's nothing to complain. But I think we do get engrossed in it. So tell us more.
Well, it's so true. I remember when cell phones came out, and I had to go to Nextel. Back then it was Nextel, before Sprint bought them, and tell them there was something wrong with my phone. I could not add another contact. And they said, well, we never knew anybody that knew more than 800 people, because back then that was the limit. And these 800 people, I knew that I could actually call them and sleep on their couch that night. I probably couldn't move in with them if I needed to, but at least I could spend the night if I was stranded somewhere. The reason I'm telling you that is because I was so proud of knowing all these people, Gayla, but something changed my life. One of my mentors told me one day, Joe, it does not matter how many people you know. It matters how many people know you and what you can do for them. I was like, whoa, because I could have called all those people like I just said. But were they thinking of calling me? Were they reaching out? Did they even know what I did? Kind of like you said earlier, how do you go back then to the office and create revenue because of the fact that we're in business to make money, not just to network? So all these things came into play into my mind as I was, because my business then was connecting people, Gayla. Because of the fact all these people I knew, I would find different experts that I represented, meaning consultants, coaches, team builders, trainers, facilitators, authors, professional speakers, and I would call the executives I knew, and I would see what their needs were, and I would usually have to go to one of their board meetings or their committee meetings to present these types of experts to their board or their committee to make the decision if that was the right candidate for that project. And what was interesting to me in that part of my life was everybody on that board had a different idea of why Robert was better than Gayla for this project, or why Gayla could, not be considered because she didn't have a video, some people would say. Or they would tell me, well, if they're not a published author, forget it. We don't want to consider them. Were they ever quoted in Inc. magazine? Gayla, they would ask me the strangest questions about the people that I was presenting for their, to be their keynote speaker, their subject matter expert, whatever it was for their project. And I thought, oh my God, it would take me months. I would come back to my office, tell Gayla to call this person, Robert, send your book to this person. I mean, it would go on and on. It was like crazy. It would take months. And by that time, most of the time, the project either got canned or somebody else got the project because it took us too long to get all the information. So I'm saying all this to say, these are the things I pondered on. These are the things that kept me up at night. And not kept me up at night, but just had me curious. How can we help the solo, like you call them, a solo entrepreneur? Because that's really what most experts are in our world too. And, how can they go out and do all this networking, do all this follow-up? Because that was the other big thing I found is none of those networking workshops that I went to ever taught you how to follow up. So you would just go around, fluttering around, giving out your card, but you never talked to that person again. And I thought that was such a waste of time too. So we take all these things that we just learned about over my lifetime of how to meet people, how to stay connected with them, how to even use technology, how to get all that information that somebody wants to know about you before they hire you. And we don't even realize if they can't find that information, they just look somewhere else because somebody else might have that information. So anyway, what I did was I took that information, tried to figure out how do we bring this on a platform and be able to scale it, because that is the biggest part of people being in business. If you can't scale it, you're just you might as well go back and get a job. I'm just gonna say it, because if you can't scale it, you're just really kind of like you're, self-employed to yourself, and you still have to find the work as well as do the work. Yep. So how do we scale this? So what I did was I came up, I was blessed too. One of my volunteer positions was I was a mentor for the local university here, University of Tampa, MBA students. I did that for 10 years. And what was really cool was the professors I worked with would give me different students, sometimes 7 at a time, and we would do these different things like create a business plan, like create a strategic plan, like create marketing plans, all around this idea that I had to help me, if you will, really think of it also from a global level, because at University of Tampa, many of the students are international students. So it was really key that I also had ideas from students all over the world of how they would see this platform benefiting their part of the world. And so in a nutshell, what it really is, an interactive marketing platform, meaning and a sales funnel. Because what I found was when you did do the networking, you needed to again come back and be able to put them in a database so that you could stay in touch with them. Because believe me, you think they're going to remember you. They really don't. It's sad, but unless, because they say nowadays you have to be seen 37 times before somebody even thinks you're credible. So how do we stay in front of them? Another thing is, remember, all those people asked every question that I couldn't even imagine of what made that person the expert for, or for their project. So I figured we had to also have everybody have a website with the ability to be able to fill in the blanks of all those things people asked us. Not that you had to do it all at one time, but because these things are really important to many people, if you could have that versus a 4-page static website, which most experts that we know, solo entrepreneurs have, a 4-page website, which is usually their bio and sometimes blogs and sometimes photos and stuff. But we had the 34 different ways, that you could, pages, as well as unlimited blogs, unlimited articles and videos that you can upload from anywhere at any time. Because what you said earlier too, we needed this to be that you could work from anywhere. Because don't forget, all those years I worked from the road, and I knew how invaluable that was to be able to do your business from anywhere. So people both can upload and download from anywhere at any time to learn about you being the expert. But the other key was, how did we keep in front of these people? Okay, so you could have this really cool website and they could find all this information, but how did they even know about you? Because what I found again is those business owners knew how to work in their business but not on their business. So trust me, they don't even know about most of the people. Many of them, this is no kidding, they don't even know what a virtual assistant is, let alone an emotional intelligence coach. Okay, so we have to explain to the business owners why they would want to hire us, what we can do for them, because of the fact that they don't know. And even, believe it or not, these high-level executives I've worked with over the years, they also many times work 60, 80 hours a week and in their business, and they know all about their business, just like how you were talking about, you knew the medical field, I knew the high-tech field. They don't even know what else is possible many times. So we have to find a way that we can consistently and frequently stay in front of them with what you can do for them, but something that makes it easy for them, but also easy for you, the solo entrepreneur, to be able to get in front of all these people. So that's when we created this unique database exchange program where everybody gets exposure to each other's contacts and not gets each other's contacts. So if you take the 5 minutes to upload a new blog or a new podcast or a new video or whatever it is on your LinktoEXPERT website, our system will automatically generate email blasts for you, send it to all your contacts as well as other people, because we have hundreds of members, that to their contacts. So you get exposure via emails and newsletters, but also we put it on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And again, it's not just who you know, because again, a lot of people don't know that many people, or even the ones that do know the value of getting in front of other people. Because look how you said about how you knew Jen, Jen knew Liz, Liz knew me. Many times that's what happens with our stuff. People might not need what you need, but they can recommend you. And so people hire other people because of the fact that they saw an email about Joanne, but they saw on that email the gala was listed, and they're like, that's what I need right now. And they can click on you and contact you directly and hire you, because it's sad. But the other big part I learned was people don't care what you do until they need what you do. And that's why we have to stay in front of them, because sometimes they don't even know they need that. They don't even know that there is a streamlined way for them to do their project, because don't forget, 95% of them didn't implement their ideas because they thought they had to do it on their own or their current staff, and their current staff wasn't trained in that. So it's just, if you will, the LinktoEXPERT platform was created to make your life easier on both sides, because many times our experts hire other experts because nobody's good at everything. You know what I mean, Gayla? Like I have a virtual assistant as well, like you are, and you too have a team in on your staff, and meaning that way that they can maybe, like you do, is, somebody maybe does the editing, somebody does the graphics, somebody does the writing, meaning that we need all different types of people to keep that business going, and that's the admin side. And we also need them, for different things as well, but meaning nobody's good at everything. And that's why even corporations started, because that way they could have the accounting department, they could have the sales, marketing, tech support, customer service. I could go on and on. But meaning now you're a solo entrepreneur and you're expected to do all of that, plus make money, plus network. That's again why this was created, so that we could collaborate, help each other, hire each other when we just need each other for projects, not as an employee. And so it just works smoothly because we all do meet once a month on a mastermind call, and we also get to see what each other's doing whenever we send information out. And so the reason that's valuable is because then we can even use it, as well as get exposed to. Now we've reached about 317,000 people regularly, and most people could never know 317,000 people.
No, I mean, it's so overwhelming to be a solo entrepreneur. I mean, you know that, I know that. It's just overwhelming for everything that you need to do yourself. But we live in a wonderful age that we can create teams how we need to. Whether we hire a virtual assistant for full time, on a long-term basis, if we choose to do on projects, we just have such wonderful opportunities. Wow, reaching 317,000 people. That's huge. I think LinktoEXPERT is worth checking out. If you've been in business for a while and want to leverage your time and leverage your influence further than your local networking efforts, I encourage you to go to LinktoEXPERT.com to learn more. Even better, why don't you email Joanne at info@LinktoEXPERT.com. All the links will be in the show notes. She truly is genuine in her efforts of helping people make the connections they need so everyone will prosper. Now, I have to be honest with you. When Joanne and I get on the phone with each other, we lose all track of time. The interview was quite a bit longer than what you heard today. The second half of our conversation is even better. In a few weeks, I'll share the rest of the interview as we talk more about content and the power of syndication of your content. Joanne referenced in the show about hiring virtual assistants. You may not be ready to hire anyone, but then again, you may be so overwhelmed and ready to grow that you are considering finding help. Either way, do me a favor. Go to GaylaScrivener.com/5 things and download my free guide called The 5 Things You Must Know Before Hiring a Virtual Assistant. Now that's GaylaScrivener.com, GaylaScrivener.com/the 5 things, and download that free guide. It's a big leap to bring someone in to help you in your business. Even if you think hiring help is down the line, do download the guide because it will be helpful. Again, you'll find it at GaylaScrivener.com/5 things. Now I'll wrap it up for this week, and thanks for tuning in, and I am honored that you joined me today. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And until next week, have a fantastic week.